CWPA Remote.
AJ Grucky, thank you very much for joining me. Head coach of Arizona State club team. So first of all, thank you very much for joining me. Now, you played at Arizona State and you coached there. So what makes ASU a special place to play and coach?
Boy, it's a great question. Arizona State's very special for me just because, I'm born and raised in the Phoenix area, so growing up in the Phoenix area, Arizona State was always, whenever we had a big swim meet for, high school or just club swimming, it was usually at Arizona State, And so growing up in and around the area and then to pursue that into my college career and with water polo is obviously something super special for me. When it comes to water polo in general, Arizona State offers such a diverse, grouping of scholastic opportunities, across every major that you can think of. And what makes that so awesome is that we get athletes from all over the world that come, for the education opportunity. And then when you have a club water polo program as developed as ours, both on the men's and on the women's side, it's great to be able to have people who have strong water polo backgrounds who are coming to Arizona State for a primary purpose of education to also continue their athletic ability at a very competitive level.
And so you and your brother both played at ASU. So you have a family connection to the school.
Yeah.
If you could talk about your playing experience at ASU and what you and your brother both experienced and what advice would you give a student athlete looking to go to ASU trying to get that experience that you had?
Yeah, well, starting off with my brother and I, we both swam for the same high school, Brophy, here in Phoenix. And so going to ASU together, I'm 2 years older than him, but him coming to ASU was a tremendous opportunity because we had, I was already playing on the water polo team. He came on board, obviously when I was a junior. And it was just some of the most fun I've ever had. And, when I look back and think about my days in college, I pretty much think about how great it was to be just to be playing water polo. From our playing experience, it's kind of a crazy story. When I came to Arizona State, I honestly was looking to walk onto the swim team, which didn't work out because I'm not that great. I'm not. At the end of the day, Arizona State swimming program is pretty competitive. And so me having 2 or 3 quality swims, wasn't going to cut it. So I decided to contact Todd Clapper, who is still the Division I women's head coach, and talk about starting a men's club program. So my freshman year of college was not really so much playing water polo, but building a men's program and anticipating for our first season, which would have been my sophomore year. So we didn't have a club team when I started. And so the first year was honestly a mixed bag of co-ed team that was kind of crazy. And by the time, I graduated, we were standing on the podium in nationals. We got third my senior year or super senior year. So pretty dramatic, crazy ride with a ton of support from so many different individuals. When we came on board, there was no coaching staff, and Todd Clapper helped us out, kind of writing some workouts and kind of being our supervisor. But obviously with his Division I responsibilities, he kind of stayed away from us with an arm's length,
Right.
And then we got a coach, Ryan Castle, who came in to be Todd's assistant, and he coached the club team, for 3 or 4 years until he moved on, in his coaching success. But it's having those types of coaches and those types of leadership throughout the beginning stages of our club was instrumental in the immediate success we had.
And that's a beautiful segue into my next question, which is what advice would you give a coach starting out, and what piece of advice do you wish you knew before taking over as coach?
Oh, man. piece of advice. I'll tell you one thing that's definitely changed throughout the years is I used to be the coach that would get, it wasn't like if I was going to get a yellow card,
It was when.
when, and that was always one of those things of if there would be my future self could go back and be like, stop being so, trying to be, not use expletives here, but calm down. would be my piece of advice to myself. Just starting out, networking and trying to make your place where you play, inclusive, is definitely something that we, I think we pride ourselves on. I wasn't a water polo player in high school. I was a swimmer, and so when you have a strong swimming background and you want to play water polo, there's obviously a transition period that's usually, it's not very fun, to kind of like, figure out ball handling skills. Even though you might be the fastest kid in the water, you still is a very, very difficult part of the sport that you have to try and figure out right away. And so pushing those types of athletes away because you want to keep it more of a water polo is not something we ever did. If you could swim and you wanted to play, we'll teach you. And because of that, we've been able to, when I was a player, we had A's and B teams, some developmental teams for athletes that were in the development stages. And then you have an A team, which was obviously the goal to get to nationals. So being extra inclusive really just builds more to your program, because you're not building a team per se at the club level, you're building like a family. Mm-hmm. And it's honestly one of the things that as I look back on, it's friends I still have today come from the water polo community that we built in the early 2000s. I'm planning a wedding right now with my fiance and I look down at the guest list, and there's quite a bit of people on the guest list that are people that were on that water polo roster, 2005 to 2008.
Yeah, so you definitely are able to build, relationships. And I love what you just said about that is, you're building like a family. And that's been a common theme I've been hearing from a lot of different club coaches, is that's really a big thing you have to focus on. It's great if you have one great player and you can kind of play around them a little bit, but it's better to have a great family unit as a club going forward. But moving on just to relationships and actually staying on relationships, talking about ASU's varsity women's program. I know you guys have a great relationship with them. So for programs that have a club and varsity team at the same school, how do you maximize your relationship so that both programs have success? And what advice would you give to a club coach or a team leader who needs to coordinate with the varsity teams in terms of like shared facilities?
Yeah, the sharing of the facilities, that's obviously something that takes great communication and coordinating. So one thing I can't stress enough is the thanks and the gratitude I give to the Division I program, as well as both the facilities members at the Mona Palmer Aquatic Center, as well as the Sun Devil Fitness Complex, because they really make it easy on us as far as like sharing time, scheduling time, and things like that. Advice I'd give programs, or if you have a club program and you have a Division I program, keep a very fluid line of communication and support. We as a club level, we work for the Division I team when it comes to their home games and things like that. We run the table, we run the clocks, we run the book when it comes to those types of things, and that's something that not only gives us it's a financial boost to the club. It's a position that helps us out monetarily, but it also builds a community and a connection, because that there's 5 people working the books or working the desk, but the rest of the team, you've got 25 on the roster, they're cheering. They're regardless of men's or women's. I mean, you fill that stadium out and really try to make sure that you support, because it's reciprocated on the backside, especially when we had a club tournament. You see Division I athletes coming to your club games and cheering you on, and it's a really special experience to keep those lines fluid. And then yes, in the past, there have been some athletes on the Division I program that decided that the Division I life was not for them, and they decided to move away from the Division I, the NCAA aspects of the sport. But when that happens and you break out, you leave that world, there's always a club level that you can come to if you want to have a little bit more of a relaxed practice environment and things like that. So keeping, a great relationship obviously can help you grow your program too, and make it a lot more fun just from a community standpoint.
And it also helps, like you were saying, with attendance at club tournaments and different events. And you compete in one of the most competitive divisions as a member of the Southwest. So who are your biggest rivals in the division, would you say? And how has competition been against them the past couple seasons?
That's a really good question, because I think my answer would differ from what my girls would say, because this year was my first year coaching back. I took a couple of seasons off coaching, handle some personal business to grow on the outside of the sport. But coming back, we were actually in a different division than the one we were in when I left coaching. A little bit of a different realignment, if you will.
Right.
So, obviously, you have San Diego State and UC San Diego that have been tremendous, really great competitors, probably top tier in the nation, when it comes to their program and their skill level. I know Irvine is definitely one of those programs up there that I saw some tremendous skill and ability in the the shortened season we had this year. But if you ask me who my number one competitor is, always going to be U of A. That's the University of Arizona. That's who my biggest kind of competition was in college. Still is to this day from a university standpoint, and they're still in our division, which is great, because that's those types of rivalry games that really kind of get me excited and me going, So if I had to choose one opponent, it's always going to be, U of A. But I think at the end of the day, one of those clubs that's been there in this division consecutively has been San Diego State. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens next year.
Yeah, and obviously the goal every year is to win the Women's National Collegiate Club Championship, an event you were supposed to host this year before this outbreak. So how do you prepare your team to compete on that level? Did you even, approach that point in the season yet with your team? And what is your long-term goal for the ASU club program over the next several years?
So when it comes to preparing, I never try to think more than about the next game that's coming up. I don't try to get the girls into a state of, situations where we're focusing on, the best team in the division and don't worry about the games before that and things like that, because anything can happen. And we're in the toughest division for a reason. There's not one tough team. There's several tough teams. And so you have to have the ability to change your battle plan before you get into a game. And you have to have the ability to pivot. And if key players become, rolled or too many exclusions too early in the game. So you have to be able to pivot and adapt. And so I'm focused more on game to game scenarios, but as far as what I share with the girls. Outside of that, in my own planning, of course, I have to think about the long-term plan of what we're hosting this year, which is the next nationals, is hopefully going to be still hosted at Arizona State. And so I guess there's a little bit less pressure put on making sure that you win specific games on me, because I know there's going to be an automatic bid process, but you still go up against the number one team in the country in that scenario. So it's kind of like the ripcord or the safety parachute of worst case scenario, we're still going to get some games at nationals, but we focus on it. We win every game, right? We win every quarter. We win every game. We focus on what we do to take those steps. And then there are no losses. It's either you win or you learn something. And so we take that type of an approach. When it comes to where I see this program growing, this year we only had one team, one A team. It was really, really difficult to do that, because at one point, if I look at the roster, I got 23 girls. Mm-hmm. So whenever I think if I have more than 20 on a team, I always err to the side of trying to split that. A team of 9 and then a team of 11 or whatever it is. So you can get more playing time for each season. So the short-term goal is to still continue with that program, and next year hopefully have an A and a B team. That's just going to not only grow our program's participation rate, because there's going to be some athletes who will see 20, 25 girls and think I'm never going to play. But if they see 20, 25 girls divided amongst 2 teams, then they probably will. And so you have a deeper bench, because you have girls that normally wouldn't get much playing time now playing every single game. And then when it comes to long-term growth, I mean, look, we all want to win a national title. The highest I've ever, I guess, achieved has been 3rd place at nationals, and so of course it'd be wonderful to get back to games of that magnitude. But I think honestly, growth and development of our younger athletes, giving athletes who don't have a Division I opportunity to play a chance to feel like a real national championship environment season after season, that's ultimately the goal, is providing championship water polo every single year that I'm coaching.
And now I've been asking this to all of the coaches I've been talking to, but in this quarantine, what are some things that players can do to kind of either stay in the game mentally or at least physically a little bit?
So physically, obviously, it's important for all mental health that we keep fit, get your fitness in. If that means you want to post your home workouts, if that means you want to safely, socially distance, go on runs and things like that, find places that you can swim if they are allowing to do so. I know that none of my girls, I don't think, have found any sort of aquatic relief besides them in their own backyard. But we've been very communicative as a program using Zoom. I know the girls are keeping in contact a lot with themselves and talking about different plans and strategies that they're going to try and come up with for keeping those fitness level. It's also a lot of really great resources that that Cap 7's putting out, that a lot of the water polo figureheads are putting out. And even my own girls are creating different Instagram accounts that are fully just like water polo workout specific, I guess, to kind of keep it going as best as possible. But it's tough, It's definitely super tough. And my heart goes out to all those seniors out there that saw their seasons cut short. But we have to make sure that we take the necessary precautions to keep everybody safe.
Well, on that note, I thank you very much for joining me, AJ. AJ Grucky, head coach of the Arizona State Club team. Thank you very much, AJ, and we hope to be down there next season for Nationals, all right?
Yes, we're looking forward to it. Thank you very much. Go Devils.